is Sangeeta and welcome back to another lecture of Dental Pathshala, where we help you understand and learn dentistry better and easy. In this video we are going to talk about the minor connector. So minor connector is the part of a removable partial denture which connects the major connector to the other component. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I would like to wish you a happy Doctor's Day, National Doctor's Day, to all the students who are becoming doctor. I just wish them to be a successful doctor, to be a good doctor, to be a great doctor. So guys, before we get started, make sure you subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any of our future notifications. So what happened today? Before we get started, I just wanted to share one thing that I wished I just wrote a long message to a WhatsApp message to, and I messaged it to everyone. It was just saying that happy Doctor's Day, you have come this far from all the hard work and all the sacrifice you have done to become a doctor, and you are serving for humanity. We must learn from you, society must learn from you. You are doing a great job even in the COVID when everybody is indoor, and then you are working and serving people. We are so proud of you. Salute to you. Happy National Doctor's Day. India is so lucky to have you from another Indian, blah blah blah. I wrote this so big message and I forwarded it to my friends, and one of my friends, she replied that इतनी कहानी लिखी तूने. I mean, she just wrote it that you have written essay about this. Directly you could have told me that we have together wasted 5 years to become a doctor. So for the 5 years which we have wasted, happy Doctor's Day to that. So that is a funny thing which happened, and I shared this screenshot to my WhatsApp status. So guys, let's get started with the minor connectors. So what is a minor connector? Minor connector is a connecting link. Minor connector is a link which connect the major connector to the other parts of an RPD. So the other part can be clasp assembly, other part can be the indirect retainer, other part can be occlusal rest, other part can be the cingulum rest. So the major connector, minor connector, is basically connecting link, which is a connecting link between the major connector and the other parts of RPD. So what is the function of major connector? This definition is the GPT-8 definition. So it is a connecting link between the major connector or the base of a removable partial denture prosthesis or any units of the prosthesis that can be either the assembly, indirect retainer or occlusal rest or the cingulum rest. So basically what it does, the purpose of the minor connector is it connects the major connector to the other part. Okay. Now also there are also other functions like it transfers and it distributes the stresses, it distributes the functional load to the abutment, to the residual ridge, because we don't want that ki forces are coming on a specific area. So we want the forces to get dissipated, right? So this is the function of a minor connector, that it transfers, it dissipates all of the forces. Then also there is one more function that it transfers, it transfers the effect of retainer, it transfers the effect of rest and all the stabilizing component to the other part of the denture. Because see what happens. Suppose if this is an edentulous arch, and if I'm giving rest on this teeth, I don't want that forces are coming just on the abutment teeth, just on the primary abutment teeth. I want that stress should be distributed to all other parts, right? For that we have the minor connector which distributes the stress to other parts. Then we have the classification of the minor connector. So usually a question asked for BDA student for the school exam, dental school exam, is the minor connector. Directly the question is asked from the minor connector. So the first thing you are going to write is the definition, which is the GPT definition. So that is the connecting link between the major connector and other parts of the removable partial denture. That is what is the definition. That is what the meaning of the definition. Then comes the function. So basically it is joining the major connector. See, whatever is the definition, the function goes the same. Joining the major connector to the other part, and then it is going to distribute all of the stresses two other parts. Then comes the third thing you are going to write is the classification. Now we'll be studying about the classification. So there are four types. We are classifying the minor connector into four basic types. One which is attached to clasp, one which is attached to the approach arm. See, there are two things. Clasp also, we have already covered the clasp. This is the reason we have already covered it. So one is the circumferential clasp, which will circumference the teeth, right? The another one is the gingivally approaching. So we call it the clasp assembly, the minor connector, which is connecting the denture base to the major connector. I must say the major connector to the clasp, then minor connector to the gingivally approaching. Like we have the gingivally approaching clasp, like that we have the other one connecting to the approach arm, minor connector. Then the third one we have is the one which connects to the indirect retainer. So the retention which we are giving far away, suppose in case of a distal extension, then we are giving support far away. Suppose I am giving one more retention, one more retainer away. That is the indirect retainer, right? Perpendicular which is going. So that is another kind. So that which is connecting to the indirect retainer, that part of minor connector. The fourth one is the minor connector which connects to the denture base. Right, so the acrylic denture base, where we want that the acrylic denture base, it should connect to all the other component. So we have four type of minor connector. The one which is connecting to the clasp assembly, one which is connecting to the approach arm, which is the gingivally approaching, the one which is connecting to the indirect retainer, or we can say the auxiliary rest minor connector, and the fourth one is which is attaching to the denture base. So, and you can write this as it is in the definition itself also. So the first one we have is the clasp assembly which is attaching to the minor connector, clasp assembly minor connector. So in that, see, this is going to connect the major connector to the clasp assembly, right? So we want that it is rigid, it has got the bulk, right? So for that we will be discussing two scenarios. One is when we have a clasp which is adjacent to the edentulous area. So when I am giving a clasp which is adjacent to the edentulous area, that means when this clasp is attached to the major connector, the part of an RPD which is attaching the clasp to major connector is our minor connector. Which type? Clasp assembly minor connector. So I repeat again, the part of RPD, the part of removable partial denture which is going to connect the major connector to the clasp assembly is our clasp assembly minor connector, right? Because minor connector is that part which is connecting the major connector to any other part. So any other part can be clasp assembly. So the part of RPD which is connecting the major connector to the clasp. So see, one is the clasp, one is the major connector. Both of the things we have studied. So the one which is connecting to both of them is our minor connector. So one which is connecting to the major connector to the approach arm is the approach arm minor connector. One which is connecting major connector to the indirect retainer is the indirect retainer minor connector. One which is connecting the denture base to the major connector is the denture base minor connector. I hope that you are clear with it. Now we'll proceed with the classification. So first one we have is the clasp assembly minor connector. That means we are talking about the minor connector which is connected to the one side to the major connector, other side to the clasp assembly, right? So there are two situations. One is when there are teeth present, another is when there is edentulous area present. When there is edentulous area present, that means we are talking about the proximal surface of the teeth. That means we are talking about proximal surface of the teeth which is adjacent to the edentulous area. So we have to just remember two things in that. One is there is going to be, we should keep it broad buccolingually and thin mesiodistally. Now let me show you in a diagram. This is again our mccracken's 11th edition, right? So we are studying the minor connector. Now if you can see here, see, this is which is adjacent to the edentulous area. So if you look at this diagram, so this is page number 55 of 11th edition. See, you can open up any book you want, you will see the diagram. So which is adjacent to the edentulous area, if you look at the thickness is very thin, because we want in this area, we want to accommodate teeth also. So what does it mean is that, it means that if I am making it very thick, that means I cannot put more teeth. So mesiodistally is thin, but buccolingually it is broad. So the part which is connecting to the clasp here, it is going to be broad but thin. Like this it is thin, but the buccal to lingual direction it is broad. Because why we cannot keep it broad mesiodistally? Because then that will accommodate the space for teeth, right? Suppose if that is thickness is up till here, then this space is gone for the teeth, right? So that is why we want to accommodate the teeth. That is why thin mesiodistally and broad buccolingually. The other thing is that there is going to be the thickest portion should be at the lingual line angle, and it should taper evenly to its thinnest portion at the buccal line angle area. So what you have to remember is that the thickest portion is going to be at the lingual line angle, right? So when it is connecting to the clasp, so the thickest portion is going to be at the lingual line angle, because there is a kind of undercut there. So second thing is, one is when there is edentulous area. Second thing is when there are teeth present. So if the clasp assembly is not placed adjacent to the edentulous area, rather it is placed in the embrasure between the two teeth. So minor connector, remember, should never be placed on the convex lingual surface of the teeth, right? So this we have done the classification, which is including the clasp assembly and the minor connector. Next one is the approach arm minor connector. That means what we are talking is, we are talking about a bar clasp. Clasp we have already covered, not the circumferential clasp. We are talking about the gingivally approaching clasp. So one which is coming from the gingiva. Now you can see in this diagram, see, here we have is the gingiva. If you can see in this diagram, here we have is the gingivally approaching, right? So it is coming from the gingiva. So this part is our what? This part is our minor connector, which is connecting the major connector to the clasp. To the which clasp? Now approach arm. If it is from the approach arm, then it is approach arm minor connector. So this serves as an approach arm for a bar clasp. See, bar clasp is the one which is coming from the gingiva, which is a vertical approaching clasp. So this minor connector, approach arm minor connector, will support the denture, will support the direct retainer, as well as it is going to engage into the undercut, right? So it is coming from the gingiva. So this approach arm is coming from the gingiva, so it is going to engage in the undercut from the gingival margin, and it is the only minor connector that is not required to be rigid. The other minor connector should be rigid. So it should have a smooth, even tapered from start to finish. We don't require this minor connector to be rigid, and it must not cross the soft tissue undercut. So coming to the third one we have is the indirect retainer or the auxiliary rest minor connector. So this is the one which is connecting the indirect retainer and the auxiliary rest to the major connector. So everything we are connecting from the major connector to the clasp arm, to the approach arm, to the indirect retainer, to the denture base. Very easy. So minor connector is the component which is going to connect the major connector to the other part of the RPD, right? So what are the other parts? These are the four other parts. Very easy. The classification, you don't have to even to remember this. Just remember that is going to connect the major connector to other parts, and then you can write it on your own. So it should be at a right angle. We are talking about indirect retainer. If you can see here in the diagram, I am going to show you. It will connect at the right angle. So if you are looking at an indirect retainer, so it is going to be at the right angle. When it is going far away, then it will be, see, suppose if it is like this, right? Suppose if it like this, so it is coming at the right angle. If you can see in this diagram here, it is coming at the right angle. So from the major connector, it is arising perpendicularly, right? So this part, the indirect retainer or the auxiliary rest minor connector, it should form 90 degree with a major connector, but the junction should be a little bit curved because we want it to fit in the embrasure, right? So if we make it straight, what will happen? There will be space which will come. See, suppose if you want to give it here. Suppose if you want to give it here. So if you are making it straight, that means space will come here, but it should follow the curve of the teeth. So it is going to fit into the embrasure area, right? But it should come from the major connector at the 90 degree. As you can see, it is coming from this is the major connector. It is coming from the major connector 90 degree perpendicularly, but it should follow the curve of the gingiva, curve of the teeth. So next come the biggest part of the minor connector, which is the denture base minor connector. So in the denture base minor connector, we are going to study two things. One is the type of denture base minor connector, and another one is the finish lines. So first of all, denture base minor connector will join the denture base to the major connector. Everything will be attached to the major connector, that you have to remember it and you can write it on your own. I know that now. There are two things. One is the maxillary, another one is the mandibular. So we are talking about distal extension. So suppose this example is the mandibular distal extension case, right? So one is the maxillary distal. In maxillary distal extension, we are going to extend it to cover the tuberosity area. I don't have a maxillary cast, but you know that the tuberosity area, which is the tuberosity area. So we are going to cover up till the tuberosity. We are going to cover up till the tuberosity. As you can see in the diagram here, up till the tuberosity we are going to cover, right? Posteriorly. And in the mandibular, we are going to cover 2/3 of the length of the ridge, and this 2/3 up till the 2/3 of the length of the residual ridge. So there are going to be three types of denture base minor connector. One is the lattice work, another one is the mesh work, third one is the bead wire or nail head work. For above two, for lattice work and mesh work, what we need to do? We need to give a spacer, and then we need to give tissue stops, right? So these are the things which we need to do for lattice and mesh work. On the other hand, for bead wire or nail work, there we will use just the metal denture base. So we are not giving any relief area, we are not giving any tissue stoppers. The metal will directly contact the soft tissues. Now what do we want? I want to show you one thing so that you understand it better. So what happens in both of these cases? First, we are going to give the spacer. Why we are going to give the spacer? Why we are giving the tissue stops? Because we want that beneath that also denture base is there. The tissue should contact. I'm going to show you in one diagram. See, look at this diagram. So this is the denture base. As you can see that beneath there is a denture base, right? There is a metal in between. So in the metal, up part is also denture base, below part is also denture base. So what do we want? We want that the tissue should contact the denture base, not the metal part, right? So in lattice work and mesh work, we are giving spacer so that in that part the denture base can flow, the denture base material can flow, and the denture base material, it get adapted to the tissues part. So as you can see in this diagram, we have got the denture base. So this is the upper part. When we are talking about finish line, so this is going to be our external finish line. This is going to be the internal finish line, which is internal towards the tissue side. When it is contacting, the metal is contacting the denture, then from inside, when we are talking from the impression surface area, that is our internal finish line. Which is the outer or polished area is our external finish line. That also we are going to talk about. So what I am telling you is that there are two, first of all we have to give the spacer, then we have to give the tissue stops, right? So in the both, in lattice work as well as the mesh work, we are going to give the relief so that the material can, denture based material can flow, it can contact the tissues area. So how we are giving the tissue stops is that I am going to show you here. So we are, as you can see in this diagram, in the distal extension denture bases, both in these cases, lattice work as well as mesh work, we are removing posteriorly 2 mm of the square part of the relief wax, where there is a posterior end of the minor connector crossing the center of the ridge. So in the center of the ridge, so what I'm going to do is, see, suppose this is the distal extension area. So in the center of the line, posteriorly, I'm just going to remove a square of 2 millimeters. So as you can see here in the diagram, see, this is the crest of the ridge, and at the crest of the ridge, we are removing a square of posterior to 2 millimeter just in the center of the ridge. So this is how you are going to do the tissue stops. You are going to remove this part, right? So next thing is, you are going to make the lattice work and then the mesh work. Now lattice work, as you can see, the lattice work as I have made in the diagram. Let me just first show you both of these works. So this is the lattice work. As you can see in the diagram here, we have got two longitudinal threads. These one, long one. The one in the buccal, one in the lingual. We have got two longitudinal threads and we have got cross threads, right? And then this is the mesh work. In that there is a mesh. We have got a mesh, right? So the lattice work, as I've showed you, there are two longitudinal threads. One will go into the buccal, another one will go into the lingual area, and also we have got the cross or the connecting threads that are going to cross over the crest of the ridge. So they will, but we have to remember that when we are putting these threads, then it should come in between the teeth, so that we don't occupy the space for the teeth. So these are one in the buccal, one in the lingual, are our longitudinal threads. The cross sectional threads or our cross threads are the one which are crossing the ridge, and they are going to follow the pattern curvature of the ridge, right? So, and relief, we have to give the relief so that the acrylic can flow around. Acrylic can through this lattice work, and it will provide retention to the denture, because this part, when we are giving relief, below this we have got relief. So the metal, when we are providing the relief, that means the denture base beneath we have got the space, right? So in the beneath part and in the beneath part, there everywhere the acrylic will flow like this, and the acrylic will be somewhere like this from the inner surface. So this is the impressure or the inner surface, so that the acrylic can flow inside. So we are providing a space. We are providing a spacer for both of these, for lattice work as well as for mesh work. So mesh work is more like a wire. So mesh work is like a mesh. It is a thin sheet of the metal with multiple small holes. See, lattice work, if we are talking about it, it's got the strongest attachment to the acrylic denture base. Compared to any other part of minor connector, the lattice work has got the strongest attachment of the resin, right? So mesh work, we have got the wire, multiple, and there are some pores in it, holes in it, right? Because we have got small holes in the wire. So we also require the relief for this. When we do this mesh work, when we have to replace multiple teeth, so in that case we are using this mesh work. But mesh work doesn't provide that strong attachment for the acrylic resin, because the holes size are smaller, and as we can see in the lattice work, the hole size is bigger. That is why it provides more attachment to the denture base. As you can see, big holes, and in the mesh work we have got small holes comparatively. Next we have is the bead wire or nail. In this we don't provide any relief, just metal. There is no acrylic part. It is directly the metal which is going to touch the tissue surface, and this is the reason bead wire and nail. As you can see, beads are there. So this is the metal part, and on the metal we just put beads. So these in between there will be acrylic which will flow, right? So this is this part. So this part is the metal, suppose, and then here we have metallic beads, and in between the area the acrylic will flow, right? So but the tissue is touching the metal part. So in case of tooth supported well healed ridges, we use the bead wire and nail head minor connector. We don't use it otherwise, because it has got the weakest attachment to the denture base, and also we cannot do the relining because there is a metal again, right? So the best one which is going to retain the acrylic resin denture base is our lattice. Second one is the meshwork, and third one is the bead wire or the nail head. So the line which is joining the denture base to the metal are our finish lines. So we have got the finish lines. They are the planned junction of different materials. So if we are talking about the definition of finish line, if they are asking in the Viva, then these are the planned junction of the different materials, right? So the finish line, we have got internal finish line, we have got external finish line. As I have showed you, the internal finish line, which is going to be towards the tissue surface, is our internal finish line. As you can see, towards the tissue surface, this is the inner side of the prosthesis. So this is the internal finish line. The outer surface we have is the external finish line, the line which is connecting the metal part to the acrylic part. So two different material, when they are connected together, is our finish line. So internal finish line, we are going to, when is there an internal finish line? Only when we give a spacer, right? Because in that part the acrylic will go and it is going to merge with the metal. So internal finish line is the space of the relief wax which we have used as a spacer wax. So all of the internal finish line. So internal finish line will be created as if we have created the wax, right? So how smoothly the wax is, the metal will come out, and same way the acrylic will engage with the metal part. So the margin of the relief wax which we have given, they will become the finish line. So that is the reason we do the finishing up of the wax. We make the wax smooth so that there are a sharp and well defined finish line which are created, and this is the reason that we do a finish up of the wax, we do the finishing of the wax up which we create. And in case of bead wire or nail head, there is going to be no internal finish line. Why? Because beneath tissue surface there is only metal, there is no acrylic, because we have not provided any spacer. So there is no spacer, that is why no internal finish line, right? There is going to be only metal in bead wire and nail head. Then comes the external finish line. So external finish line is the line which is going to join the acrylic resin at the polished surface of the major connector, right? The impression surface, we have the internal, the polished surface which is the outer surface is our external finish line. Again, last time I am going to show you that this is the internal surface, right? This is the external polished surface. So the polished surface we have is the external finish line. So this particular line which is connecting the metal to the acrylic is our external finish line. From the inside, the impression surface, the part of the metal which is connecting to the denture base is our internal finish line. So if you look at the external finish line, the external finish line should be sharp, it should be well defined, and but should be slight undercut there. It should be less than 90 degree. And because why we want it should be less than 90 degree? Because we want the acrylic to engage with the major connector. We want the acrylic to lock up with the major connector. So it is going to extend from the lingual part of the rest seats, and it is going to continue along the major connector onto the proximal surface of the teeth. So guys, this is about external finish line, internal finish line. This is about the minor connector, and I just want to show you one more diagram, last diagram of this chapter, which is which is this one. So it says that when we are drawing an imaginary line that is going to contact the lingual surfaces of the teeth which we are restoring. So suppose if here is the molar and this is the lingual surface of the molar, right? So the line which is touching the lingual surfaces of the teeth will be 2 millimeters, will be located at 2 millimeters medial to it. So there is going to be what it is saying, that the finish line, external finish line, will be 2 millimeters medial to this line, to the line which joins the lingual surfaces of the teeth. So what it says, that the external finish line will be 2 millimeter medial to the line which connects to the lingual surfaces. It should not go beyond into the palate. So it is, see in this diagram, which is it's saying incorrect. In this finish line is going into the palate. No, it should go just 2 millimeter medial to the line which connects the lingual surfaces of the missing posterior teeth. So guys, this is about the minor connector. Minor connector is a frequently asked question for the BA students, for the MDA students, but it is not much to study. If you have watched this entire video, you know that there is not much to study in the minor connector. It's a piece of cake. Once you know it, you can write it on your own, and this is the reason I have been telling you guys this, that the RPD, once you read it, once you understand it, you don't have to read it again and again. Once you understand it, you can write it on your own. So we have studied that there are the classification, we have studied the function, we have studied the definition. So classification, there are 4 classification. The part of the minor connector which is connecting major connector to the clasp is our clasp assembly minor connector. The part of the major, the type of the major connector, the type of the minor connector, I'm sorry, which is connecting major connector to the approach arm is the approach arm minor connector. The part of the type of the minor connector which is connecting major connector to the indirect retainer is our indirect retainer minor connector. The type of the minor connector which is connecting major connector to the denture base is our denture base minor connector. So guys, this is about the minor connector. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. So give it a thumbs up. Also, you can comment in the comment section below, and there is a link in the description box below to support me on Paytm as well as on PayPal to make free videos for you guys. So till then, keep reading, keep learning, stay motivated. I'll see you soon in the next video.